Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Kerstyn, and I've got my lovely co-host.
Hey, it's Norah, your liberal lobbyist.
Yeah, I didn't want to say I don't have a name today. You know, I go through all these different names. Today I'm just Kerstyn. So no name. Kerstyn with no.
That's a rarity. Yeah.
That's a rarity. I know. Today I want it to be different. And today we're on episode 37. It's Politricks Podcast. And we have a special guest. Norah, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, this is my good friend, Paul Thomas, one of the partners at a firm. And he is a guru / Jedi on all things politics in New York. He's from the South Bronx.
Humbly.
And he has, I would say some of the most unique opinions and cares deeply and passionately about people in New York City and especially Black people. So I thought he'd be a great co-host.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited. And, to your audience, just want to say well wishes and prayers during this time as we continue to work through this unfortunate pandemic. And, it's been hard on all our families. It's been hard individually. So I just want to offer my prayers to your audience, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that, and I know our audience appreciates that as well. We have some people that listen to us, and they're always, sending me messages like, "When are you guys coming back? What's taking you guys so long?" I'm like, "Oh, we've been taking hiatus." I think it's also because of COVID. I don't know about you, Norah, but it's just so hard to sit down and have these conversations, you know what I mean? And as much as I'm having these conversations, just to set aside time to talk about this stuff, I just get a rumbling in my stomach. I just feel like it's just so, it's almost like everything we talked about is happening, you know what I mean?
I know, it's very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is very heavy.
You think that during COVID, would it make us more human? And, initially the first 3 weeks, we were all in this together.
Right.
And then as April rolled on and into May, things unraveled.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, and especially in communities of color, Black communities, Harlem, Bronx, Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, East New York, Chicago, Philly, in our urban centers, it's on fire. It's on fire. And, the topic of discussion tonight is, what do we do about it? What are the variables that are leading to this horrific violence? And it's time to have hard conversations.
Yeah. And I think today, Paul kind of gave you guys a preview of what we're going to be talking about. But I think it's important to have these discussions. We're going to be talking about, I hate the term, I hate saying the term, but it seems to be the term that is always, viewed.
Makes me
cringe. First it was in the media from from all the 1980s till 2020, I've heard this term, and now social media has adopted it. And, every time something happens in society, we're hit with the term, what about Black on Black crime? So we're going to talk about that.
Can we pause there?
Yeah.
What
please.
about Black on Black crime?
Right.
I just want people just to understand that we're having this conversation as people within the community. We're doing the hard work of addressing it. But by no means does that mean are we going to be disregarding the work and the efforts of the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that has been going on that has led up to this conversation is often because it's a rebuttal to the Black Lives Matter movement. So I just think that is something why kind of how it got unearthed was we kept hearing it and was we should talk about it. So just to give context to the audience. Yeah.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Norah. I appreciate that. And let's get into it. You ready to politic?
Ready to politic.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right. So inner cities like Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Atlanta have seen a rise in violence since the 4th of July. hence the uptick of the snarky post, what about Black on Black crime? Why aren't you protesting about that? Is that a fair assessment to the term or the idea of what's going on and why we're not, why the news is not paying as much attention as they were paying to the protests and the riots? Do you think that Black on Black crime deserves to be a platform on, all of our attention? What do you guys think?
And I take the first crack at it. Let's remove the media, right? Or move the CNNs of the world, the CSNBCs of the world, the Foxes of the world. Let's talk about social media, right? And unfortunately, you look at your friends' posts, you don't see them posting about a 1-year-old child getting killed in Bronzeville.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a post of a father walking his 6-year-old daughter in the Bronx on University Avenue and having his life taken. You don't see a call to action where you have 9 Black men during the course of a July 4th weekend in New York City lose their lives to gun violence. You don't see that call of action. So unfortunately, when a Black man or a Black woman life is taken by a member of the law enforcement community, rightfully so, there's a cause to action. But when a Black man or a Black woman or a Black child or a Black grandmother life is taken at the hands of gun violence, of urban gun violence, and 9 times out of 10, the perpetrators a Black man, there's no call to action by us. So it's not so much the media, there's no call to action in the same way when, again, a Black person life is taken by in the law enforcement community, there's a great call to action.
And I think, right, as there should be, but I think that's also because the rate at which Black people are killed by the police, and oftentimes police, most times, are never convicted, right? If they're even charged. So I think the uprising and the whole movement was about accountability and justice. And oftentimes when a Black person is killed by another Black person in whatever community, they're usually found, convicted, and put into prison, right? Thus mass incarceration, et cetera. So I think I don't want to miss that point of why the movement starts is because when we're asking if our lives have value and if they matter, I think it's not so much to each other, and you guys can chime in on that, but more so to society, to this country, when we can get killed by the police, the ones that are supposed to protect and serve us, and they not have any accountability on the back end. I think your point is valid, but I think that's why there's that upheaval and that movement in social media because of the lack of convictions. I mean,
well, for me, it's not about the outcome of the tragedy when we have Black on Black violence. It's the loss of life. And the loss of life, if you are a Black person, and I live in the Bronx, I grew up, I live not too far from where I grew up at in the South Bronx. If you continuously see brothers and sisters die to this surge, how it doesn't move your spirit, how it doesn't make you frustrated, it doesn't make you angry or as frustrated when a member of the law enforcement community takes the life of one of our own. And personally, for me, that's my frustration. That's my hurt, because when we have inappropriate act, not inappropriate act, but when a member of the law enforcement community, a cop, takes the life of a Black person, is a call to action. And, I think, for a lot of us, we become numb to the violence that is in our neighborhood. And, Norah, I can't tell you how many people have said to me, well, usually that person is going to go to jail. It's not about the outcome, the prosecution. It's what could we have done as a village
right
to prevent that loss of life?
So I hear, I kind of feel like I fit in the middle of this conversation, because I kind of feel like we're forgetting one fundamental thing. Black people in history have been traumatized, right, in their communities by, white people, by even Black people themselves, their community. And there's a lot of mental, I guess the word is, there's a reckoning of mental therapy that is necessary for people of color. And I feel like the trauma that Black people live under every single day affects the way they take in information, news, and things that they can kind of get outraged about. I do want to say that it's not necessarily true that when we hear about a black person's death, that we're not just as outraged. I think it becomes more of we're so fed up. It's just, you don't even know you can't even express the because it's almost like the ignorance has taken over, and there's nothing that you can do to fix this. It feels almost like it's out of our hands. It's above us now. You know what I mean? And unfortunately it isn't, but that's just a lot from what I gathered, in the hip hop community. We lose artists, at an alarming rate to gun violence, at an alarming rate. Artists that are so talented. We did a podcast episode about one of them, gosh, what is he forgetting? California Hustle. What's his name? Oh my God, I'm losing his name. What's his name? Hustle?
Oh, Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey, I can't remember. And you hear about these stories, and I think it's because of the conditions that they live in. And one of the things that concern me is not necessarily the fact that there isn't an outrage, because I see the outrage. I see it in my family. I see it in my friends. We're outraged, I even see it on social media. This is not particularly it's still a Black person, but there was a death in the Bronx not too long ago. I think it was last year, when it was a violent death. His name was Junior. He was a Dominican kid.
Pulled out of the bodega, stabbed.
It gives me chills when I think about that. Yeah. I remember I literally shed tears from that, like just watching it, maybe because it was just, you saw the whole death, and you saw how this kid was just like, you could tell he was like, what is going on? Why am I getting attacked like this? And I saw the whole community put their, embrace this kid. Now you might say this is his Latinx, person, or you might say he's not, a traditional Black American, but I also see Black Americans too. I mean, whenever we lose one of our artists, whenever we lose, a friend, there's visuals, there's things that happen. It's not like it's just business as usual, So I do want to put that out there.
So you made a couple of points. One, you talked about mental health, and God knows we need more mental health services in our communities as we deal with generational trauma. Right.
Wait, can I cut you off? Do you remember when it was like a thing like, oh, Black people don't need help, need mental health?
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's like, it's the actual opposite. Like, it's almost like, no, we need it more than ever, than anybody.
To this day, it still has some of that, right?
We have to stop that stigma.
It depends on the circle you're in, honestly. The stigma still exists.
True.
And, education. The more education you have, the more you're exposed to, and the more you have access to in terms of resources and embracing different parts of life. But again, I wanted to mention the 3 points that you just noted, Kerstyn. You mentioned mental health and having access to mental health services and the need for it. And you also mentioned this frustration of just throwing up your hands and like, I don't know where to start. And the same way we demand reform in the law enforcement community, and you're starting to see those reforms finally happen, and rightfully so. We got to demand hood reform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's
what
no
does that look
longer,
like?
well, I'm going to get to that. It can't be, well, it's the hood. What do you expect? It's challenging ourselves for those who have made a career. It's us going back and being a part of the solution, and not everybody has to work in a nonprofit. Not everybody has to do 80 hours of service, but we could be in the space of philanthropy. All summer, I was seeing posts on social media, Black excellence, Black excellence, Black excellence. Well, that Black excellence need to reinvest in our hoods. And there's a lot of Sundays that we enjoy during the normal times. We enjoy and spend $200 on a Sunday brunch. Blow it away.
Love a good brunch, honey.
Bottomless.
Bottomless mimosas.
Bottomless.
Easy. And then after brunch, we go to another spot and have like a nightcap. Before,
get some dinner.
The day is done. Some good times, right?
Yeah.
But what if we, like, that $300 that you're going to spend on Sunday, we split that up at $150 and send it to a nonprofit that is doing the work in our communities.
Okay.
So when you speak to, well, how do we get involved? How do we reform? How do we give back? Again, it's not about doing 80 hours of community service or 40 or 20 hours of community service. It's finding your lane and contributing. And I think some are, but not enough are doing it.
Yeah. I think that's rough. Sorry. I just think that's rough. I mean, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I love the idea of hood reform. I think that's even a great just hashtag social media. But I think the reason why it feels overwhelming is because, like, the more you know sometimes, the more depressing it can become. Like, when you know history, when you know what this country was founded on, when you know about redlining, when you know about, the lack of jobs in the hood, when you know about how they divested in education in the hood, when you know about food insecurity and all these other things, it's kind of like all these things compounded together. How do we begin to move it when a lot of these were state and federal sanctioned laws that happened that got us to where we are now? So it can feel almost like a mountain, that we have to move. And I think that's where some of that, like, idea, especially if you're from the hood, is like, I made it out the hood and I want to pull back and get other people out the hood. But no one's really talking about investing in the hood, right? Look at the Jay-Z's, look at the others. Like, no one's living in Marcy projects right now. No one's going back, unless you're Cory Booker trying to run for office. So I think that that's something that should be talked about.
Jay-Z once said, this is not the Jay-Z of today, but the Jay-Z of yesterday said that, because someone said, why don't you, like, put your money and like redo the Marcy projects? And his exact, or no, I can't even say exact, I don't remember exactly the quote, but he said, once you fix it up, it gets messed up again. So he rather divest his funds.
The current Jay-Z said, we don't own it. Right. So why are we going to be investing and trying to protect the block and be so proud of our hoods that we don't even own? Right.
Or the projects. Like,
regardless if you own it, regardless if you own it or not. Again, I grew up in NYCHA housing. And I grew up where I saw my neighbors throw stuff out the window. I grew up with neighbors that pissed in the hallways. So you may not own it, but respect it.
Yeah.
So, like, nobody's telling Jay-Z to redevelop Marcy Project, but I'm quite sure he's done in the past or doing currently. But can we do beautification projects like flowers? Can we get a new paint job in the community centers or the cornerstones that are in NYCHA housing? If we know that a particular development is lacking lighting, can we got GoFundMes for everything else? Can we use our capital to pull together to make it a little safer?
But why do you think that's something that has to happen outside of NYCHA? Like, why can't the community take care of themselves as a whole? And I by no means mean it in a patronizing way, but more so. I mean, I was reading Dapper Dan's book, and he talks about Harlem and how in the 1940s and 50s you can literally leave the door open in Harlem. Right? It was that safe. You left a brick door in front of the door so people can come in and out of the front door, and there was no problems. Your doors were unlocked. It wasn't safe. It was always safe. And then as time progressed, and the drugs started, heroin in the 60s, and then 70s, crack. And then all the other drugs, cocaine, and then crack in the 80s. The question is, why can't he recounts people being it was a community, like Mrs. So-and-so needs some sugar, bring it down to her. Oh, Mr. So-and-so lost his job, bring the family a plate of food. Why does it have to come from outside? Why can't we do it from inside? I mean, that's something that I'm even wondering.
It's not about outside, it's about us, right? Mm-hmm. So I went after grad school, I lived in Harlem since about 12 years, and I moved back to the Bronx because it's changing. Mm-hmm. And I want to be a part of that change. And, when you talk about gentrification doesn't necessarily mean white people coming back or coming in. Gentrification means I'm blessed in my career. I could reinvest in my community. Mm-hmm. I could be a role model of a young man going to work every day, doing the right thing, living a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
I could be a part of my community. And it's not about looking towards government. It's not about looking towards others. It's about looking towards us who are successful in life.
But what about the community? Because I feel like there's some ownership there too that we may not be we're kind of skipping over. The fact that the community, like I said, if Mrs. So-and-so needs some sugar, we're sending it down to her. If Mr. So-and-so loses his job, the neighbors next door bring a plate of food to the family. Why are we forgetting about like the communal aspect that
I think
a lot of these people who live in the projects have been there for generations, so they do know each other. It is it's not like it's like we don't know the neighbors. We've lived here for 30 years. My grandmother lived here, my great-grand, like where's their accountability there though? I ask.
You have some of that. You have that. You have tenant associations. Right. Ms. Johnson, who was a worker, God bless her, who was a worker when I was a kid, she was like a godmother. I was saying not a godmother, a grandmother to me. So you have that sense of community. You have that sense of people looking out for each other, but their resources are limited, right? Some of their education is limited. They can't necessarily help you fill out a college application. They don't have those resources. But I think it's incumbent upon us who are from these communities, who care about these communities, need to invest in our community. And I remember having a conversation with Norah a couple of weeks ago. It's not the mayor's responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not celebrities' responsibility. It got to be us. If you like to call ourselves the village, if you like to say catchphrases, the culture, the tribe, well, we got to take care of our tribe.
Yeah.
And everybody in that tribe is doing well.
You said something that was interesting because I've always heard this. Whenever I remember my first time going to a project building and visiting a friend of mine, and I was like, whoa, like I was younger. I was like, whoa, because thank God I was able to, my parents I grew up in a, Upper West Side. And I got to see the world. Sometimes I do forget it. I can't.
Black privilege.
No, I know, but what? It's funny because it's like saying it. It's like, oh God. Sometimes I don't want to. People is like, oh, what does she have to say? But I experienced everything. I experienced the world. I've traveled the world. I've experienced. I've been around the hood. Like I'm well-rounded in that sense. But seeing that was like so shocking, right? Where my friends would say, yeah, this person just, he just overdosed, or this person is, on crack. This this person did this person was raped, like all these crazy stories. And it's like that stuff, like, it's a volatile space, but also like you try to like come in here and say, you know, hey, stop peeing in the steps, and they're gonna come after you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, unfortunately, it's almost like, and that's why people kind of throw up their hands in this sense, because you don't, like, in a way, like, if let's say we were all living in the building, right? And this is our meeting, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to fix the issue of the electricity, or the issue of the the steps. You try to do things in the building, and or put flowers. It literally, someone's cigarette, but weeds is in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, unfortunately, it's deeper than beautification projects. I think. But
I also feel like hold on one second. I also feel like, though, that is a cop out, because I have been in the Polo Grounds as a community organizer, and I ain't from this city, but I know how to speak to our people. But also, it's like, we should be informed. And I think that's what we miss, right? It's like, we go into the hoods and have this paternalistic attitude about what they need to be doing. And that angers me, because these people have value. You know what I mean? They have opinions, and we need to be asking them what they want to see change, and then go from there, including the youth. The youth is often overlooked. Even if you're a drug dealer, or you a corner boy, or whatever, you still have value. Your opinion still matters. And we need to continue to engage them and see what they need in order for them to love and appreciate and respect their elders and their community, and feel like they actually have something to contribute. So sometimes I just feel like we adopt these very paternalistic, in my opinion, white supremacist sort of ideals on what is okay and right, and how we should all be orderly, and everyone should act this way, and lose the value, you know what I'm saying, of the people that's living it every day. I've been cussed out at a community organizing meeting, and all my white counterparts were clutching their pearls, and oh my God. And I was smiling, because I was like, go off, sis, And then I spoke to her afterwards, and we were able to have a real fruitful dialogue. But like, you can't be afraid of your people. Like, I think that is where the disconnect happens when you start to make it. You know what I mean? It's like, all of a sudden now there's this gap, there's a space, we're above. And I don't know how we break through that ourselves first.
My mother still lives in the apartment that I grew up in. And I still have friends when I visit my mother that still live in the apartment that they were raised in. And honestly, it breaks my heart. I'm 42 years old, and I have friends that I grew up with look 59.
Jesus.
And it's hard living, hard life, and you're not taking care of yourself. So, I am fortunate that I have a career that I work with nonprofits that I like to say are doing God's work, and trying to provide, the necessary programs and resources to these communities. But again, with many conversations with Norah over these past couple of weeks, those who are blessed, we need to do more. And we just can't sit by and continue to go to brunch where people are being massacred.
Well, I like the CTA, the call to action that you have. Stop spending money, stop one Sunday, don't go out to brunch, and use that money for good. I think that's a good idea, actually. That might be something that people someone needs to take this idea and run with it. That might be, I could see that. I could see that instead of like remember the ice water challenge that everybody was doing that summer? Maybe we need to start this, and maybe that can help our communities. I'm all for it. I just also know that our community, I kind of go back and forth, because one side of the fence, I'm like, it's not their fault, because I know what's against them since they were born, right? Going to school is like going in the safari, where you have to battle the drug dealer, the violence, the gangs, this, and then going into your classroom and not being valued and not having the proper education. So you're almost sorry?
I'm sorry. I got to challenge you. I got to challenge you on this.
Please.
we have a lot of talk about what's wrong in our communities, and we have a lot of say, well, what do you expect them to do? When we were having, our fireworks, a bonanza, throughout the city and throughout the country, I heard many of your friends, well, what do you expect? Like, we don't use the word accountability. And, one of my best friends, her husband, said this great quote. He said, it's easier to make the right decision when your belly is full. And when your belly is not full, you don't make the best decisions in life. And I respect that. And that's real. However, we have to be able to catch that young Black man, that young sister, that mother, that father, where they feel they are to a point in their life and they have a sense of hopelessness that they are willing to take a life, they are willing to disrespect life. And we got to change our conversation of, well, what do you expect them to do? Like, people got to take accountability and be accountable of their actions. And we have to have them own it.
But even in owning it, it's like, and I get that, but it's going to be hard to reach them when they're moving from a place of desperation. And how do we help to extinguish this desperate, approach that they have to life? You know what I mean? Like, that's where I feel like the challenge really comes in.
And that's a real point, Norah. It's catching them before they get to that point. And when you talk about catching them before they get to that point, it's early childhood education. I know the Mayor de Blasio, had an initiative where a mother, and it was going to start in Kings County, where a mother will receive or be visited by a social worker during her pregnancy to kind of provide her with the resources that she needs during the pregnancy to make sure she has a positive birth. So it's catching up to your point, Norah, before they get to that point of desperation. And again, that's just not on government. That has to be on us as well.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I think we've got to. I know we all talk about the problem, and I think what you're saying, from what I'm understanding, is we have to do more as the privileged folks, the ones that have a little bit more. And I agree with that. I think that calls for us as people who are in their 20s, 30s, and beyond, and those who are even younger, to take some time to pay attention to what's happening in the inner city and how they can, be of help, And one of the things that is interesting, because I've had this conversation in the past with a lot of my friends, and one of my friends who's from the Bronx, and how he's like, you don't understand, because we had this big conversation about, well, why can't people, I was saying, why are people specifically, we're going to pause for 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, so I love what we're saying here. We got to continue to do some more digging in our communities and take more accountability in our communities. And for those who can help, we should start doing more to help those around us. So I'm going to get into the next topic. I want to talk about, this is a big topic because this is another one. I was reading a couple of articles, like Washington Post had an article about this, and just, one of our favorite podcasters that we listen to, Joe Rogan, he kind of brings this up all the time too, about the Black Lives Matter movement. And the question is, has Black Lives Matter failed to raise outrage about Black Americans killing other Black Americans? Does police brutality affect Black communities more than gun violence in the inner cities?
Again, it irritates. This is just so irritating, because it's not like that wasn't the mission and the purpose of Black Lives Matter, right? It was to raise awareness on police brutality, period. Right. So we can talk about the evolution if we want to evolve it into that, and maybe that's where it should evolve into, but we ain't even get through the first mission. We still don't have conviction. So, Breonna Taylor's freaking police officers are still police officers. So like to then pivot and make this conversation about this feels very distracting, and we can do both, right? It doesn't all have to be on the back of this one movement. That's my opinion.
No, Nora, I agree with you.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly.
Okay, Paul. I thought I was going to hear some back. I thought I was going to hear
But
here we go.
I think we got to have parallel tracks. You know, you can't, call to action on the law enforcement community and stand idle to the violence that are going on in our community as well. That's done by our own hands. Like you can't, like, yes, the movement of Black Lives Matter, yes, they want to focus on police reform and police brutality. Absolutely, have at it. That's your mission. However, you can't be quiet, or just you can't be quiet and see 9 Black men gunned down over the course of a holiday weekend, a 1-year-old shot in a park, the violence that is going on in Chicago. You can't be idle.
But what do you want them to do? What do you want the organization? What do you want Black Lives Matter to do about that? Like, what specifically?
No. So I'm not talking about in this piece. I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
They're on a different track. I'm talking about the whole different track. But I'm talking about everybody else who is quick to post Black Lives Matter, the blackout on Instagram, buy Black business, and don't speak truth to power on the atrocities that some of our members of our community, our brothers and sisters, are doing to themselves.
On this particular issue, which makes sense. Okay.
300%.
But we do, but I mean, we can't forget there's a lot of
rainbow
organizations. I mean, I know
tons of organizations.
Yeah.
Hundreds of organizations that are doing this work, but guess what? They need help.
Not to this level.
Yeah.
Like none of those organizations have moved to the level of Black Lives Matter.
Right. I mean, Black Lives Matter just got to this level. Let's be honest. It's not like
this year.
The city.
This is not like Black Lives Matter. Like 5 years ago, people that were like, they were barely scraping.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, let's not forget that. And I hear you with what you're saying, but I feel like the problem, just like you said in the beginning of the conversation, let's put this in context. If we're at a fundraiser for cancer research, we're not jumping up and down saying, diabetes is way more important. Diabetes is an issue. We also have to fix certain things. And I think, Nora, what you're saying, I agree with, is we've got to first fix what's happening. I mean, our tax dollars are basically supplying the weapons that they're using to brutalize and commit murders to our people. So I really don't think that we can. I really don't think that we can compare oranges and apples. Because
no one is comparing oranges and apples, or at least I'm not comparing.
You're not. Yeah. I know you're not.
What I'm saying is we got to have a parallel track. We can't have one conversation on police brutality and not have a conversation on what's happening in our communities. And they're not mutually exclusive, because the reason why we have a heavy law enforcement presence in our communities is because of the level of crime in our communities. And, we had this whole
I gotta hear this.
Nora, you have the mic. I want to hear this.
No, because we are over policed in our communities. You think that these white neighborhoods aren't committing the same crimes? They're not over policed the same way that we are.
How many shootings were in Riverdale?
I don't know. Nora. Is it being reported on?
Wait, what was your question?
Riverdale.
We're talking we're not talking about murders. We're talking about crime. You did not say murders, you said crime. No. So let's be clear.
Okay.
Nope, we're not going to do this. Because the reason why we have this police presence, we're not talking about murder. We're talking about crime.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, we're talking about the crime of shootings.
Okay.
Illegal guns. How many shootings are in Riverdale? How many shootings on 96 on York? How many deaths were in
There's other crimes.
Battery Park City, Park Slope,
This is
Gramercy
convoluting
Park.
the issue. You mentioned the reason why police presence is so heavy in our communities is because the rate at which Black people are committing crimes, which is not true, because white people are committing crimes as well, but there are not over policing in those neighborhoods to know. If you're in suburbia and you got this little young 16-year-old white boy smoking weed, right? And then you're in Marcy Projects and you got this young 16-year-old Black boy smoking weed, which one do you think is gonna get arrested? And why? Because there's a police presence. So that's why I'm like, just hearing like, that's why police came in. That's not why police came in.
Okay,
it's the reason why Black communities are over.
So in between 2000, I want to say 2 to 2009, it was disbanded. The NYPD had this initiative called Operation Impact Zone, where you had levels of crime in certain communities. And in order to combat that, they flooded those communities. So that's robberies, that's shootings, that's assaults, that's robberies. So if you have all these crime indexes happening in, unfortunately, poor communities, which is, at least in New York City, mostly populated by Black and brown, you're gonna put resources there. You can't tell me the South Bronx has less crime than Riverdale and they're not reporting it. Like, we're not being real if you wanna make that statement.
That's not it. But what I'm saying is, it's not like Black people or brown people are more
violent,
criminal, right? More violent.
I'm not saying that we are more violent or criminal. It's a socio-economic issue.
It's just dire resources. I think it's just more so that the resources are lower in these communities.
Yes, you're right. But crime is being committed. So if crime is being committed, regardless of the variable why it's being committed, you're going to deploy law enforcement resources to that community to combat that crime. If crime is not being committed in Riverdale, you're not going to police Riverdale the same way you're going to police Bed-Stuy.
Like, see, again, is it the broken windows theory?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because we
that's not the broken windows. That's not the broken.
No, it is, because that's what they're here in our communities because they see a broken window and they say crime happens. That's something that New York, since Giuliani, that was what he practiced.
Broken windows theory was a strategy in policing that if you aggressively police a small crime, like jumping a turnstile, and arresting somebody for jumping a turnstile, it would lead to preventing larger crimes. I don't agree with the broken windows theory.
However, ain't they the same thing? Ain't you saying
ding, ding, ding?
No, I know. No.
Okay, so you're
saying... Well, I'm saying, I'm not saying arrest somebody for jumping a turnstile. I'm not saying, lock somebody up or aggressively police a community because they're stealing from the bodega. What I am saying, if you have 20 shootings reported in a geographical area, deploy the resources in that area to stop those shootings.
So that's specifically gun violence crimes being committed.
Gun violence, drug activity that has plagued our community for God knows long since the 60s.
Yeah, and now they're legalizing it for rich white people.
Well, okay.
I'm talking about heroin. Okay, so for me, growing up during the crack epidemic, I've seen families decimated by it. So, when you talk about, like, I'm not talking about marijuana, now it's recreational. And yes,
the reason why I brought up marijuana is because they don't differentiate between, like, heroin, crack, and weed, right? It's kind of like drugs are in the neighborhood. This drug dealer is selling drugs. Period. Right. So that's why I'm like
about marijuana. I would say one thing about marijuana that sometimes people don't talk about it is the violence that it's associated with in the hood. Yeah. And there's been a lot of people who have died over marijuana, either in a robbery, people who have been assaulted because they were trying to sell weed on this corner and it was a rival gang or a rival crew or a rival individual. So the violence of marijuana is very different than marijuana in different communities. There's a real association of violence and marijuana in our communities.
I don't think it's by accident. I think what we're forgetting is the politics that's behind this. The war on drugs is the problem, you know? At the onset of it, Reagan, Nixon, this was something that they consorted to create a way of keeping Black people in destitution. They figured this is a new way to put them straight to jail. This is a new way to get them either hooked on drugs. And one of Nixon's aides, his political aides, said that he hated gays, heroin, drug people that are on drugs. I'm sorry, he hated Blacks, gays, and hippies, and found drugs to be the best way to eradicate them, to get rid of them. So I think that the war on drugs, honestly, is why there's so much criminality in the urban city. It's because they've created these laws to keep us in disarray, to keep the community in destitute. Because, like, the way they're handling the opium crisis, they're not putting people in jail the way they're putting Black bodies in jail. The fact that we're losing Black fathers is another reason why the communities aren't as stable as a white community. There's a lot of other factors that are just so deeply entrenched and systematic and have plagued the communities for like almost 50 years, that even obviously further, but the war on drugs specifically, that now, yes, of course, police are going to be there more because they started this. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about police, but I'm talking about the politicians. I'm talking about the laws. I'm talking about what they did to keep us that way. And it's not like all I just want to say is that we're not more prone to violence than white people. We know through history. No, I know you're not, but I want our listeners and those watching to know that that's not what we're saying whatsoever. What I'm saying is there's some entrenched political structures that have kept us in this position in these communities, so that, yes, the police have to knock on our doors more. The police have to have lights on the project buildings to monitor what's going on in the middle of summer, because they've created this hotbed.
See, and again, what's difficult for me is at one point, you're going to take charge. You're going to take charge of your own walk. And I'll share a personal story with you. I was 9 years old. It was in the summer. I was on my dirt bike and I was going up the hill, and a gentleman stopped me, a teenager that was a little bit older than me. And he said, "Paul, I need you to do me a favor. Paul, I need you to hold my drugs." And I looked him in the eye and I said, "My mom's going to kick my behind if I hold your drugs."
Right.
And
fear of mama.
The fear of mama. And he's like, "Cool, no problem," and kept it moving. What if I said, "I'll hold your drugs for you"? It would have led into, "Hey, you want to make a little bit of money being a lookout? Hey, you want to make a little bit more money selling? Hey, you're part of the crew now. This is what you got to do to be a made guy." So at what point, it's almost like football and recognizing, like, yes, we are not dealt a fair hand, but you still got to play your hand. And I'm 42 years old, so I can't use, Nixon's aide put these barriers before me.
Right.
Norah is what? How old are you, Norah? Say it.
I'm old enough. I'm old enough.
She's in her 30s. Norah can't say Jim Crow stopped her from being all that she could be at this point in 2020.
Right.
So, let me finish, Norah. So, yes, have there been challenges, and are there still challenges in our communities that have put obstacles for us to progress.
Yeah.
Yes. But it is enough of us now to have the ability to do a podcast and talk about these issues that we could do more to right these wrongs.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but I'm just saying that you're saying that, agreed, 100%. But what I'm saying is not everybody knows what we're talking about on the podcast. Like, I mean, I hate to say this, but if we said to, your average person that's, 15 years old living in the projects or living in underprivileged circumstances, I don't think they're going to be like, let me go listen and hear let me go listen to what they're talking about here. This sounds like something I'm interested in. No, they're interested in watching their, YouTube, watching their vloggers, their raps, artists, listening to music. Like, they're not interested in this. So I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I don't know how you're going to get to the people that need to hear this. You know what I mean? Because unfortunately, they just grew up in this environment. That's it. They don't know what's put in place for them and why. It's almost like they don't know why they're actually experiencing these things.
But you
they
said
just know
how
this is life.
You said how we get to them. The same way we use different platforms today to organize around police brutality, to organize around police reform. The same methods could be applied to reforming the hood. Like, everybody's posting, right? Everybody's doing videos, right? And doing testimonies, speaking to the issue of police misconduct. Why we can't post a video or have the influencers post a video about we need to do better in our hood. You talk about music. Let me just finish with this point, Norah. You talk about music. I love hip hop.
Yeah.
But we have in hip hop, a piece of hip hop, not all of hip hop, but a piece of hip hop that glorifies Black on Black violence, that speaks to celebrating shooting each other.
Right.
So how we talk about reform, and we have parts of the culture celebrating this violence that is plaguing our community.
I mean, but you could also say that
I wanted to say earlier and I forgot it.
Go ahead.
And now I wanted to say it again. It's just, I posed the question, or the thought at least, to everyone of like this idea that no snitching, right? And like, so now we're going to post the violence that happened in your community, in your hood, maybe by someone you know, right? At least growing up in inner city DC, back when we was the bullets, okay, not the wizards. It was there. You knew who shot such and such in the alley. You knew who committed whatever crime. And even still, even though you knew that happened, you didn't want to send another person to prison. You didn't want that person's family to be hurt by that. You wanted the streets to take care of the streets, because at least there was, in your mind, whether it was right or wrong, there was some code.
So what does that look like? But what does that look like? The streets take care of the streets?
I'm not done. I'm not done. What I'm saying is that we have to acknowledge that. So like this whole idea that like now all of a sudden we're going to be like totally okay with coming out against this stuff is like, it's very internal. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like mass incarceration has an impact on this whole conversation.
Yeah, but
and what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
But you know, earlier in our conversation, I'm not so much focused on the outcome after the crime. I'm more focused on the prevention and how do we change the environment so that crime won't take place. And what would it look like if
we politicians involved?
No, we don't.
We have to change policy. There's
no policy that you need to be enacted in law to value someone's life. There's no policy that the governor or Congress or the president needs to run on that platform to say, as a Black man, I got to take care of another Black man and respect them and speak to each other with love. We don't need policy for that.
Yeah, I think Nora's paused. I'm going to pause for a second.
I use my Jedi mind tricks to pause her.
Paused her. Yeah.
No!
We're recording. So, okay, guys, there's so much here.
Okay.
I want to get another topic in. I feel like we're getting into this, and apologies for the tech. And I'm moving so much too because I had to put my charger. I don't know what happened.
Can we do an episode 38?
We'll do one. We'll have to do one. We'll have to bring you back on. Okay, so I'm gonna get into. I don't know. We're kind of getting into all these different. There's just so much inner workings. I do want to talk about music really quick. When you mentioned music, just know I work in music. Know that the music business makes buku money off of the crimes, the drugs, all of this stuff. Yes. And this is something that's actually pushed. Even like sexualizing, even in the pop music, white girls are sexualized. They have like, take off your clothes, girl. You got to show more and stuff. So there's something to be said about what sells in America versus what doesn't. Because, if you're doing Christian rap, you're not making money you're not getting put on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, YFN, Lucci or whoever, you know what I mean? Like you're just not making Gucci Man, like you're just not seeing that kind of money. So there's something to be said about corporate America and this, attachment to the violence and violence in movies too.
So let me ask you a question.
And video games.
Let me ask you a question about the industry now. Would you say in the last 10 years that Black artists have more power over their brand?
Oh, totally. Yeah. They definitely do. So,
would you say they have more creative control?
Yes, but creative control is one thing, but you need the money. The money is still the label that controls the money. So you can't piss off your label and be like, I'm not putting out this.
That's true.
If your label wants you to do X and you want to do Y, you have a problem. And you could get dropped,
But again, for me, we are talking about life, right? And you take a situation like Chicago. Like, how powerful it would be if the folks who are the celebrities of the culture did a video, and not going in and holding hands and saying kumbaya, but in this age of social media,
we are the world. We want to hear
not even we are the world, but just a straight up post IG live, since we always want to do IG live. Family, we got to do better.
Yeah,
like that simple human message.
I think you could, but is that really gonna? Is that what's gonna change? Everyone's gonna drop their guns.
That ain't gonna change nothing.
You think people gonna drop?
But guess what? The same way. But again, the same way we're demanding for police reform, we can't say, oh, but you think that's gonna we gotta try.
Yes, you can, because we're paying for that. Our taxes go to that, and we pay. And we pay we vote politicians in to do these jobs. So
we pay them too. You're right.
So,
just know that what you're asking for, euphoric the sense of it, like, oh, we should all have everybody talk about it on Instagram. That's great. And maybe for a week it'll be a stop the violence thing. And you hear about this stuff all the time. They stop, they're quiet for a little while, and then it picks back up again. I think it's intrinsic in what has happened from generations. It's bigger than, that's why I'm saying, like, even Jim Crow laws still affect us. Like, all this stuff is years.
I also want two things. Like, you have like something like Black is King that Beyonce released to counter some of what's going on, right? And to show ourselves look different. But two, these are their experiences. Not all the rappers. Now, some of them are frauds. But for a lot of them, this is what they know. They did come up out of this. So they're not going to talk about, the autobiography when they haven't read it. So it's kind of like,
What do you want to, and don't forget, hip hop started like this. Hip hop started with the guy talking about broken glass everywhere, right? That's where hip hop started. But it's about talking about the community, what's going on. And they're talking about the violence they see to this day in their community. It's basically poetry of what they're seeing. It's just not as poetic, maybe. What were you saying?
We can no longer afford to say why we can't do, or that is not going to change. We can't afford it.
I think we need a good solution, because far I don't think it's
not about one solution. It's about throwing paintballs at the wall and taking on the problem. So I'm not saying one video post by Snoop Dogg or Baby or whoever is going to stop the gun violence in Chicago. But
you just want
if it makes somebody pause for 2 seconds, that's an impact. If we do, instead of going to brunch Sunday and take that $300 and put it into nonprofits that are doing the work day to day, it's not going to solve it, but it's another brick to right the ship. So again, it's no longer, we can't, especially when we have the ability and the capital to do.
I agree. All right. Did you want to say one, Nora? I was going to go to the next topic.
No, I think, were you going into the media?
Yep, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
All right. You're a mind reader. Okay. So, she knows what we're going to talk about. But all right. So let's talk about the media and them perpetuating, or do you guys think that, I mean, this is an open question to you. Do you guys believe that the media perpetuates the narrative that black people are more violent?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely.
How film started and originated. I want people, there's so many documentaries out there.
Can you explain what
is it called? I love movies. And I wanted to know about the history. And when you look at how Black people were introduced into film, it was literally as the violent character. The first time you're seeing a Black person on screen is a mammy or a rapist. And oftentimes you had white men, in blackface portraying a Black person as a rapist and hiding in the bushes and all those things, right? So I think that we have to remember, it's only evolved from there, but that was the starting point, and that was the starting point of media on film. Film is the starting point.
And how about the media?
Look,
Channel 7 is always ABC News. Man, local news literally will have you wanting to jump out the window, the way they portray.
Yes, I agree with you.
No white person committed a crime today at all. That's interesting, because if I look it up, I see all these other crimes. It's interesting, the stories they tell. Even to the point of they've gotten better at this, but I remember in the 90s, they would always show the face of the Black man walking to the the police precinct, but the white person would get to cover his face, and I never understood why that was. They would hide him, they put something over him or cover, and it's not like he was a minor. It was just an adult, but they just they always protected that. So
to the other piece, look, white collar crime is treated very differently than other crime. Is prosecuted differently. If you have money and privilege, instead of doing the perp walk and cuffs, they're going to take you outside in the back. It's treated differently. So to our brothers and sisters that are now executives in that industry, we got to take incremental steps to change some of those practices, and especially to now in this movement where everybody's getting called out for racist statements, racist videos. That I saw it today that Ryan Reynolds is apologizing for having his wedding on a former plantation in 2012.
Wow.
So there's a lot.
I went to a wedding on a plantation.
What?
There's a lot of It's a lot of
my friend got married
going on right now.
Oh my God! I'm glad I don't know people that would do no crap like that.
You know, and you just walk around the trees
friend.
and you're looking, you're like, in South Carolina.
Like, do you guys remember that amusement park that was in Williamsburg, Virginia, talking about the
Astroland?
The Colonial, no, the Colonial Museum, not the museum, the amusement park. It was a colonial theme park.
Okay.
No.
You don't remember this?
Remember that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Did they have slaves?
Guys, like there used to be like commercials of it. Colonial theme park.
Yeah, you'll look it up. But I mean, I think another thing that's interesting with police, another thing, and thankfully as of recent, I feel like they kind of stopped doing this. When you see a victim that is, killed by a police officer, they typically go down the list and find the rap sheet and find, he stole. That was very much when he was 6 years old. He did steal something, you know what I mean? So they post where they find pictures that make them look incriminating, So it's
that was very much a Giuliani tactic in the mid-90s. Yeah, Giuliani started that, where again they will show victims or the victim's rap sheet and try to say, well, he was this person, he was that person, so they justify the actions of the cops, which is just maddening.
So Paul, the last episode, we talked about abolishing the police and, just that whole conversation. But I think one of the things that's interesting about this is the issue we have in America about whether or not someone deserves to live or not. Right. And so it's like, if you've committed a crime, your life doesn't have value. And so it's okay that you got killed because you weren't a good person anyways. Look at what you did in 92. And I want to know like the origins of like when we started, losing the value of life for all people. I mean, it's wild to me.
Well, Norah, since the dawn of time, right? Where you see civilizations having slavery, or you see, different cultures having a caste system. Value is put higher on people, and it's unfortunately.
But we've evolved so much as humans.
No, we have not. We have not. No,
I don't think we've evolved. No. We're still doing the same stuff. There's nothing different
like if you see a high definition video of a black man getting choked out by a cop, and you got people like, you didn't get choked out, huh?
Yeah.
Like you see a black man having on the ground and having a cop have his knee on his neck and that man dying. Like, humanity is still struggling to be human. And, when we talk about accountability, you only could control what you can control. And until we start, especially as a black man amongst other black men, like I played football when I was a kid, high school, college, and our coaches always used to say, block out the noise. You can only control what you can't control. So yes, I have challenges as a black man in this country, but I'm gonna value life. I'm gonna choose life. And that's hard to do, and it's not easy. You need help. You need a village, you need support, but we got to change our narrative. We got to shift our spirit, because in this time where everybody's still, in this time where we are in the forefront of media,
right,
where people are recognizing that the law enforcement community have some individuals, have policies, have culture that go hard on our community, go hard on black people.
Yeah.
But this is also an opportunity to start changing the narratives that have plagued our communities for so long.
Yeah, I agreed. We talked about Giuliani a bit, and I want to bring it to this final topic about politicians. And you kind of danced on the topic with bringing up Giuliani's practices. It's so funny that Giuliani was like the American mayor. Everybody respected him
after 9/11.
Yeah, they respected him, but I mean, I grew up like fearing him. He wasn't nice, you know. He was mean, you know. He's yelled a lot. He just wasn't the type of individual you'd want to be around, you know. And from what I understood, he was a prosecutor that got rid of a lot of the mafia in New York.
That's how he built his career.
That's how he built his career. So it kind of is like this parallel. So this is another, actually, oh man, this is something else that I wish I had thought about this earlier. We don't have that much time, but I do want to talk about this, the fact that I feel like when people talk about Black crime, it's almost like animalistic. It's almost like it's unjustifiable. There's always like all these horrible things to say that kind of measure it and make it compatible. But when they talk about like the mafia, it's almost like heroic. It's like a means to an end. They needed to do this. Like, you know, it's justifiable. It's like
that's Hollywood.
You know what I mean? But that's another thing. But even think about that. Even the fact that it's Hollywood. Think about the fact that it's so, like, this is another form of racism. Like, they found a way to make money off of the criminals. Like, Harley Davidson used to be a gang. They used to be gangs, white gang members, maybe even Ku Klux Klan members. I'm not sure exactly their origins, but I know they were a gang. And now they monetize off of their gangs. There's motorcycles, there's clubs, there's organizations. You know, mafia, they didn't just kill people, they decapitated people. Like they were like
the cartel,
violently killing people in the streets, organized, right? Yep. Which is even worse because when you think about Black crime, it's usually pretty sporadic. It's not well thought out. It's just, you know, I'm hungry, I gotta go stab or kill someone.
I disagree with that.
Yeah. I was like, they just pulled up to a funeral, you know, in Chicago and killed 12 people. That was pretty
Yeah, but it was also people there that probably were, again, I mean, obviously there's exceptions to the rules, and I don't want to make it sound like one who's worse than ever, but I just want to
No, but your point is valid. Your point is valid.
Highlight the fact that there is mafia crime. Like, let's talk, you want to talk, okay, you brought up Chicago, very good point. Why don't we ever talk about Chicago and its origins of violence from the mafia? Mafia started there. The reason why gang members started is to protect themselves from the police. The mafia took over. They owned Chicago. So if the city is ran by corruption, you think that the Black people of today don't have any remnants of what they went through, what they had to do to survive, what kind of work they had access to, like the racism that they had to deal with, like all of this stuff connects to something. I don't think it's just. And then let's not forget about the politicians, which I'm trying to get to this topic, the politicians who divest the money out of education, divest the money out of programs, divest the money out of, and continue to put it into the police and things that don't help the community, the people. Well, I'm sorry, I said a lot.
First, in New York City, DOE's budget, Norah, please correct me if I'm saying this, DOE's budget is bigger than the NYPD's, correct?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Department of Education is about a third of the city's budget. We also have 1,000 schools and over 1 million children. So, yes, it is.
Every year that I've been in politics and government, the state's budget is April 1st. The city's budget is June 30th, starting the fiscal year of July 1st. I've never seen a press release talking about cuts to education. I think we don't spend our dollars efficiently.
Programs? Education, there's no cuts. Okay, I'm going to look it up while you talk. Continue, because I won't cut you off.
I have never seen
headlines, but it's happened.
Yeah.
But Norah, your time in government, have you ever seen, we're not counting this year, have you ever seen the DOE's budget less than the previous year fiscal year?
No, I've seen it remain the same. And the DOE does an amazing job of having huge budget codes so that they move money around, right? So like classroom money may have decreased, but administrative money may have increased, which balanced it out.
Oh, okay.
So
that's how
in the details.
It's really divesting. The point is programs, but inner city, I mean, and let's.
But also, to that point, New York State does not pay all of their schools the right amount per pupil per student. There is still a deficit for schools. They're still not given what they're owed. So
right. But can we talk about Chicago and the inner city community, like the actual programs that they divest into other, so maybe that's where the money's being divested.
I mean, we can talk about, let's talk about, that goes back to media, that goes back to the culture of the mafia. It's highly glorified, right? I mean, there's a new Netflix documentary on New York right now in the mafia, and it's already like the trailer looks amazing, right? Yeah. And
can we not lose focus, guys? Like, and I say this respectfully.
Sure.
Again, I want to take it back to like a sports analogy. So let's say
we're not losing focus.
Our football team is the New York Black people, right? I don't care what the mafia is portrayed. I don't care what the other team is portrayed. What I care about is making sure our team is whole. So the focus should be on how do we make our team whole. Yeah, we recognize that we're treated differently. Absolutely. But again, let's go back to the conversation of control what we can't control. No. Invest in what we can invest in. That's my opinion.
I understand, but I just disagree because there is validation in being seen and not feeling crazy, right? So like when Michelle Alexander released her book, The New Jim Crow, just giving you the actual laws and the context on which why we are where we are right now helps you understand, right? And doesn't make you feel like Black people do have an issue, you know, they are less intelligent or they are this, that, and the third. It's like, no, actually all these things were in place that got us here. And so there is some validation in that so that you don't already feel like you are starting from 20 feet behind, but at least now you know why. And you know, it's not because you're incapable or incompetent. So
thank you.
That's what I think these conversations come to. So it can't be in a vacuum.
But my point is not saying that we are lesser than. My point is saying control what we can control. We know our issues, control it, and let's be accountable to it. Not continuously say it's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault, and never try to move the ball. Like we could do the blame game, and rightfully so, we can do the blame game all day.
But we just got here. We just got the facts. Can we just sit in this for a second?
No.
Like, dang, we was right the whole time, y'all. Hey, everybody, we was right. We was right.
Nora, get on your butt.
We're still learning about it. We're still figuring
I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
We just found out. We knew we weren't crazy. I mean, white America is just figuring out that racism still exists. They didn't even know that Black people still dealt with racism. They had no clue. And when I mean they had no clue, they literally thought we were talking in like crazy talk. Some of these people but for the most part, they don't know.
They were distracted. They were distracted
and so there's ignorance there. There's some ignorance where you don't have to know. It doesn't bother you, so it's none of your business.
300%.
You see stuff happening. And that's the same thing with Black. That's why if we can give white people that kind of grace, we should understand and empathize.
I'm not giving them that grace.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Or at least, I mean, we're not giving them grace. I mean, they should know. They should be working up. But the point is but we can also rationalize it, right? We can rationalize why they had their blinders. Because this is Jon Stewart. Oh, sorry. Jon Stewart said a quote that I loved. He said, Black people have been fighting for equality while white people have been fighting for equity. So they're not paying attention to what we're fighting for because they're just focused on getting this money, and we're focused on.
Paul's point.
Huh?
Which is Paul's point. Paul's point is focus on us and what we can change, and not be worried about.
No, but not even that. I mean, think about this. Think about it in like actual, like it kind of breaks my heart. Black people are fighting for equality. White people are fighting for equity. Two different things. So we're behind the 8 ball. If all we're trying to do is fight to be seen as whole 100 equals, whereas white people are just making money. They're past equals. They already know they're equals. They're busy making money. So you see the disparity. So now you're telling Black people to pick themselves up and start being accountable for themselves. It's like,
who else is going to do it?
I'm still trying to be equal. I'm still trying to get to the point where these people don't see me as a killer or an animal or whatever, or not give me a job or whatever the case is.
Who else is going to pick us up? Like, who else is going to do it?
Yeah.
Government is not going to do it. It has a history of
not doing it, of doing the opposite.
Not doing it. Jon Stewart and Hollywood is definitely not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it got to be us. So
it's still a good point, though. It's still a very good point to think about putting things into retrospective, how we are so behind because institutionally they kept us fighting just to be seen as equals. Well, they're focused on buying homes, owning Fortune 500 companies.
Okay, now that you know that we started behind the 8 ball, what we're going to do?
Okay. And Paul, let me tell you something. You are 100% right in everything you're saying. It's just, unfortunately, a lot of the things that you're saying, I have trouble thinking. I have trouble with how it's going to be implemented specifically, because even on the surface, you mentioned the brunch idea, right? It's a great idea. I think the concept's great. Let's use our money instead of going to brunch. Let's use our money to help.
Brick.
Huh?
That's one brick. Here's another
one brick. That's only one brick.
But guess what? We can't worry about how we're going to build a bridge. Let's worry about how we're laying bricks. And if we lay one brick at a time, before you know it, the bridge is built. And I think too often when we have these conversations, we are all concerned about what the bridge is going to look like. And everybody wants to be the architect, but nobody wants to be a mason. Nobody want to lay the brick. Nobody want to lay the first brick. So until we start worrying about who's going to be the architect and what type of bridge we're going to have, let's build bricks.
I think we have all the laborers in place. I think we've been trying to build this brick. I think it's now these freaking codes that we have to live by, that we have to abide by to build this bridge is what's hurt us for so long. And I really do think it's bigger than, and obviously this is a Politricks podcast, so we always try to infuse politics because that's what it's about. I do feel like politicians have a lot more to do with helping to balance out what they've created, right? Now, maybe not the people here have done it that are still living here in this world. It's generations ago, our forefathers, in fact. But
sure.
but there's still something that needs to be done on the politicians' level. So that means that locally, when we're voting, we have to look at what these people are talking about. It's not enough to just vote Black people anymore. It really isn't. You can vote a Black person in office and think that they've got the greatest, ideas for you, and they don't. They're just kind of status quo, The Democrat Party, as much as I support the Democrat Party, specifically in November, it's like a lot of our politicians, Republicans, I mean, they don't care about our issues. They want us to just figure it out. But Democrats seem to understand what we've gone through. They seem to understand it. And I see it's still the same status quo. Nothing ever changes. Every year we're still talking about insurance. We're still talking about gun violence. We're still talking about, violence. Like nothing changes. So
I disagree with that. I think not every politician is effective, but there are many public servants that have been very effective in implementing change throughout our communities. I think, people, Bill de Blasio is having a very, very tough go, but he campaigned on stop and frisk, and they said that the city was going to go to hell, and it didn't go to hell. When David Dinkins, when the entire city was marred with crime, you couldn't hang out at 42nd Street, 42nd Street was very different than what it is today. David Dinkins, first Black mayor in New York City, instituted a surcharge to hire more cops, which was piggybacked off Clinton's crime bill to hire more cops, which Giuliani used to implement aggressive policies like broken windows. But those policies led to gentrification and led to brunch spots that people enjoy now. So it had collateral damage, a lot of these policies, but it changed communities, Harlem, Clinton Hill, Bed-Stuy.
Are you saying these are good things? Are you saying all this stuff?
No, what I'm saying is domino effects. Like, if you don't have crime reduced to epic low levels throughout the nation, you don't have the nice brunch spots that you like to go to in these communities that were once urban blights. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
But David Dinkins and like even your mayor in DC, what's her name? Gretchen. Is it Gretchen? What's your mayor's name?
Who, what right now? Mariel Bozer?
Miriam.
Mariel.
My issue with Black politicians who are pro-policing, right? Pro adding more money to the budget for policing. Now, I understand being a mayor, that's technically you have to take care of the city, right? You can't let the city go to hell. But it's like, I feel like these Black people who were once civil, just regular citizens, I feel like they should see what the real issue is. It's not keep militarizing their city. It's more so, let's get these communities, let's get the PAL, let's get more, if in fact, if you're gonna put money in police, give them training, but don't put more bodies, more police force in the community. I think that doesn't help. I don't think that's changing anything. I think it's making it worse.
I think you have great points, but you take New York City, the people think that the NYPD's sole job is to, quote unquote, and I don't agree with it, is to be a oppression force in our communities. Like New York City, since 9/11, has been a legit terrorism target by these, different factions around the world to target this population, target this city. They have different functions. And like white people, Black people want to be in a safe neighborhood.
Agree.
Now there's a conversation of, well, how do you get that neighborhood to be safe? Right. But everybody wants a safe neighborhood. Everybody wants the ability to walk in their building and feel safe.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's not the case sometimes, where you have young kids who congregate in front of the building and your daughter, your sister, your female cousin don't feel comfortable going in that building. Mm-hmm. Your son doesn't feel comfortable going in that building. So yes, it's a balancing act. Yes, we need alternative programming.
Yeah,
more social
maybe
services.
They could be playing a sport. Maybe those guys that are sitting outside. And again, I feel like I'm always going like this, balancing on both sides, because I agree, it's true. I don't, like, as a female, you don't know. It sucks when you have to go into like a building or somewhere or walk down the street.
A social worker is not going to tell
women,
the group of guys to move from front of the building.
What's that?
Like, if we're being real, a social worker is not going to tell.
Yeah, but neither is an officer. You think an officer's going to be like,
that's what I'm saying. It's not about
stop and frisk.
You can't stop and frisk. You can't. What you're forgetting is like, and people was like, oh, why are they outside? Why can't they be in their house? I'm like, it's hot. It's 100 degrees. Why would I be sitting in my house if I live with 10 people in my family and I have kids? I want to be outside. I don't live in a home where I could be in my front porch So outside congregating with my friends is the only thing I got. That's fair too.
Well, yeah, it's a great point.
It's a fair assessment.
You know, let's flip it to the weeks of the fireworks bonanza, right? Everybody was calling 311. Black, white, brown, green.
Everybody
was calling 311 because
I thought they were in my house. I thought fireworks were being done in my house.
They were going to 4 a.m. in the morning, and you have people like, well, what do you expect them to do? Like, have some consideration. Like, for one, so, like,
I just feel like when we... sorry, go ahead.
You know, I would say to your point, there needs to be balance. Like, a hammer is not the solution all the time. But sometimes you do need a hammer.
Sure. I think less frequently than we see right now.
I agree 200%.
Right.
I agree 200%.
And that's where cure violence and programs like that are so useful, because you have people from the community who have the respect that the police lack currently. You know, maybe they will one day be respected community members again.
And one of the things that, again, like, I come from a law enforcement family. My grandfather was a cop in Panama. And, like, so I come from a law enforcement family, and I have a great respect for what cops do. Are there bad cops? Yes, but we like to speak in generality, like all cops, the same way not every black man is a criminal, the same way not every black woman is a criminal, not every cop is a bad cop. And, you know, we like to say the police, we like to say cops. I think, again, in using the same way we want people to be responsible for the language that they use in the media, we should also be responsible for those who have a platform not to demonize all cops. Because
it's not about demonizing cops, it's about the culture of police and how police were formed in this country as slave patrols. So, like, I don't think all cops individually are bad humans. I don't think that that's why you get into that job. You're sacrificing your life, and I don't want to take that for granted. Because if something happens to any of us, who are we going to call? The police. Yeah. So I don't take that for granted. However, I do think the culture is problematic, and we can't ignore that all of them have been infiltrated by that culture, and blue lives having value sometimes more than the person that's in front of this building, just because of the culture and the brotherhood and the fraternity.
A good example,
I agree with that.
Van Lathan said this. He said, if you're he was talking to an athlete, basketball player, well, the basketball player was basically saying the same thing, kind of saying the same thing you were saying about we can't villainize all cops. Cops, you know, there's some good guys out there. They're doing great work. Why, you know, what are we going to get out of calling everybody like they're all animals or pigs or whatever? And Van said, you know, what we forget if you're on a basketball team, if one person is, you know, raping girls, right? You know, this guy on their team, he's like known for like raping girls. He's a horrible human being. And the players know about it, right? They're not taking part in it, but they know what's going on. Is everybody on the team still good team members or good people?
That's a tough analogy, because you do have had in the past, you have cops who are whistleblowers. So, like,
and they were punished for it all the time.
And you get punished if he's the best player on the team, and they lose the ring because of it. You get punished.
Again, I think we want to do a better job in how we go about wanting to reform the law enforcement community. And the simplistic solution that is going to take community, is going to take government, and is going to take law enforcement agencies is, if you have a bad cop, if you have a cop that does wrong, have a process and hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. And if you have that, you'll see trust build between the Black community and the law enforcement community. It's that simple. Has it happened? No. Has it happened in some cases? We need more of that.
It's just so hard because you're going to get reprimanded, or some of these cops get fired when they whistleblowers. It's not it's not simple on any front. Honestly, on any front, it's not.
And then again, in fairness, and not every law enforcement agency, is a corrupt institution.
The judges are involved in this. The prosecutors involved in this. The prosecutor and judge are playing golf together. There's so much at play with what happens in just with criminality that it's best for my like you say, with people of color, Black people specifically. I say I grew up with my parents telling me you have to be better than the white person. You have to work harder. You don't have a rich uncle that's gonna bail you out, so you better not do anything that needs you to be bailed out from. And that's how I grew up learning. So I believe in right from wrong. I didn't do stuff that I knew that I had no business doing, because I knew that if I did, I wouldn't be here. I would be in prison or whatever the case is, or worse. So, and just like what you said, your story of, when your friend tried to get you to hold his drugs, like, could you imagine? Like, what? No. Like, but some people, sure. Well, yeah, I got you. And
hello, hi, I'm some people. I'll hold your drugs. When you gonna come get them? Hello. Okay. And how much you gonna give me for holding them?
I gotta go bail her out, okay?
Yes, because that's not what I grew up with. I didn't have those moms. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I have a soft spot for those people, because when you don't have any of that, and it's literally you, thank God for my grandfather, but like, you have to have the self-efficacy.
You had someone, though. You had someone.
Yeah,
you may not have your parents.
I had someone.
And some people have no one.
It wasn't a daily. And it wasn't the culture in my home. You know what I mean? The culture in my home was very different than what you all are describing. So
and now to my points about village, points about culture, to a kid like a young Norah who doesn't have that support.
Mm-hmm.
But what it would look like if the village was there, and the village is there in some instances, but what would it look like if the village was there, we were there to catch a young Norah?
And I agree with you, because I had mentors and teachers who poured into me in a way that, I don't think that youth are getting, or enough youth, I should say, because there are still those people in the world, but not enough youth are getting that. And it makes all the difference in the world, right? But what I don't want is to disregard that kid who said yes to holding the drugs, who made the mistakes, and you know what I mean? Not give them that chance as well.
Yeah, and then we villainize them for being horrible people when they just did something that's another thing. It's like, we also have these youth offenders that make stupid mistakes, and should they be paying for a dumb mistake that they had no business doing? They were ridiculously dumb, and they're like, hey, what you're doing at 17 does not say what you're going to do at 27 or 37.
And Paul, to your point about what we can do, I remember when I was on Flatbush, I witnessed a robbery. I saw two young boys rob the barber, and he was like a neighborhood staple. So it was like, you're going to rob him. But anyways, I saw the gun. I kept walking like I didn't see anything. I got hit with the gun when they were running, right?
What?
And I went to, the police showed up. I wanted to support the barber. So I was like, I'm going to do my part because he's a staple in the community. I'm going to go to the police precinct. You go to the police precinct, they had 3 huge manila folders full of hundreds of brown and black boys, hundreds, and saying, do any of these boys look familiar? And at the time I was community organizing, so I was like, dang, y'all got access to all these kids who need us, who need this help. And you just have them here to pull out to see which one did it. And we could be using this to reach these kids. We already know who needs it. And this is where I just feel like society and what we do is just, we're doing it wrong. And so I think that's Paul's whole point.
That's a very good point. That's a great point. When you think about that, that folder could have been doctors, lawyers, someone, the cure for cancer was in that folder.
But
how about that?
Guys,
we don't know what's in that folder.
It's not the charge of the NYPD.
I didn't say that.
No, but I'm saying it. It's not the charge of the NYPD to raise our black men, our black boys, our black girls.
Right.
it's us. It's us. So like, you know, and that's powerful. And Norah, that's powerful. But like, again, when we talk about lanes and what we could do, you know, there's a lane for everybody. And you just have to identify your lane and get in it. But for us who are blessed to continue to stand on the sideline, we know better than that, you know, some members of the NYPD. We know better than some of the politicians that are implementing these policies to continue to ravage our communities. We are no better.
I agree. But to your brick laying analogy, politicians, police, everyone got to lay a brick, because it's not going to be done with just us, right? And I will never forget a particular politician who ended up serving time, okay, when I was fighting for some after-school slots that he was eliminating. And he said those kids... No, a black one. He said those kids, those parents should be there to take care of them after school. This isn't our job as a city to always take care of these kids. And I was like, well, what if they don't have parents? Like, at what point does everyone wrap their arms around this situation, including us and the politicians and the police? And that's where I just feel like we can't look at this from a vacuum.
Well, I say this much. We need everybody help, but we got to take the lead. We can't wait for outsiders to take the lead. Like, we got to be the lead. Once we take the lead, I think folks will follow. But if we don't take the lead, we're going to be doing more podcasts like this where make you want to holler, throw up your hands. You know, this ain't living.
All right, we're going to end on that note. We're going to end that. Yeah, we got to end. That was it. You ended us. Thank you
Closing
so much,
words.
Paul. Thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you, Paul?
I'm not on social media like that, but if you want to go to my Instagram, you're only going to see stories about my bike and my cooking. Sorry.
Your bike and your cooking? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm going to check your Instagram too. I love cooking.
So why not? Sir Pablo 19.
Sir Pablo 19. All right. I'm Kerstyn D on Instagram.
And I'm Miss Yaya, and can be found at MissYayaComedy.com.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry. So, no, remember when we talked about getting folks who are not in our space?
Yes.
And having conversations like this?
Yes.
You know, this was the first step. Let's execute that, because we got to get off the sideline.
Yeah, we're going to work on that brunch. We're going to, maybe we can start something. I mean, all I know is that we just, I think our politicians, we got to hold our politicians up. They've got to do more. They're elected officials. We can't keep talking about the same things and not having any kind of just any measurable outcome, you know, whether it's them stepping aside and letting us handle it and giving us the fun, like letting us handle it, or they actually do things that are effective. Because what's happening is that we're still crying about the same things, and we just can't. We don't have the appetite for it. You see what happened with the George Floyd incident, and how it sparked a change in America and in the world. Yep. And it just goes to show you how people are so tired of the same thing. We're tired of it. We're tired of this, and a lot of us, I mean, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you people are tired of seeing the same stuff, like get over it, move on. You know what I mean? That's what a Republican's like, get over, move on. Well, we would like to get over and move on, but how can we if it's still happening, right? It's still happening, and people are seeing that now. So it's up to politicians and us as Black people, Spanish people, even Asian people. We all have our part to do. We've got to be, whether it's us running for office, I think that's important. Norah, I'm hoping you'll decide at some point, at some point you hopefully will.
You find a way to mention this every episode.
she's gonna do it. She's gonna be great. And
I will cut Norah a check.
And I will too. So you got our support, and that's all you just need to start getting, do an exploratory, we'll talk offline. But the point, sorry, we'll talk over. But the point is,
I hope y'all have me again.
Yes, we will. Yes, but we just have to say, like, let's do more than just talk the talk about the problems. Let's take action.
Do more than politics.
Yeah. Yes, do more than politics. Let's do more. Let's vote. Let's get in office, because a lot of these politicians, it's intrinsic in the fact that they've been in office for 40 years. You know what I mean? All of them, Republican and Democrat.
Well, that will be another episode. Do term limits matter?
Be careful with term limits.
Okay, we'll talk about that. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Thank you for joining us. And be safe. Yeah. Have a good one. Bye-bye, guys.
Peace.
Bye-bye.